All right, today we're going to dive into a story about the tools that literally let us see beyond our own eyes. We're talking about microscopic worlds that open the door to some of the biggest leaps forward for all of us. And you know what? It all started with a really simple but persistent question. What if there's more to everything than what we can see? I mean, just think about that. For centuries, that was the question that kept curious minds up at night. It was this nagging suspicion, right, that the world we see, the world we think we know, just wasn't the full picture. That just out of sight, there was this whole other reality, just teeming with life. And for the longest time, that unseen world wasn't just a mystery, it was a wall, a barrier. Scientists knew there had to be secrets hidden in plain sight, but they were bumping up against the absolute limit of human perception. All they could do was guess about what was behind that invisible veil. How could you possibly know for sure? And then it happened. A breakthrough. A totally new way of seeing that would change, well, pretty much everything, from how we understood disease to the very definition of life itself. It was finally time to pierce that invisible barrier. The answer, as we all know now, was the microscope. And what's so cool is that it started out as this kind of simple curiosity. You know, a cool new toy for people like Robert Hooke to sketch the eye of a fly in incredible detail. But it very quickly became something so much more. It was the key, the literal key to unlocking a whole new dimension. And the impact was just staggering. Seriously. It wasn't just about seeing smaller things. It was about smashing through that invisible barrier and walking into an entirely new universe that had been right there under our noses the whole time. It's almost impossible to wrap your head around how big of a deal this was. Just try to put yourself in their shoes for a second. Imagine the pure awe of being the first person to look through a lens and see a single cell. A tiny, living world holding everything it needs for life right there. It must have been absolutely mind-blowing. But, okay, seeing this incredible new world was one thing. Actually understanding it, well, that was a whole other challenge. That initial feeling of wonder, of awe, had to evolve into something more disciplined. Because, let's be honest, just seeing something isn't the same as truly knowing what it is. And this forced a huge shift in the kinds of questions scientists were asking. You know, at first, it was all about the basics. Hey, is that little blob I'm seeing real, or is it just a smudge on the glass? But to build real knowledge, the questions had to get way tougher. They had to become, is this discovery repeatable? Can someone else do what I did and see the exact same thing? Is this image I'm drawing actually accurate? And that right there laid out the path to real confidence. See, the goal wasn't just to look anymore, it was to see truly. That meant being cautious, developing meticulous methods, and building a whole foundation of accurate discoveries that, and this is the most important part, were repeatable. This wasn't just a checklist. This was basically the birth of modern scientific credibility. And once that confidence was in place, oh man, that's when everything really changed. Having a clear, trusted view of this tiny world didn't just satisfy some curiosity. It completely remade our own world, from the ground up. With this newfound confidence, humanity's invisible enemies were suddenly dragged into the light. For the first time ever, we could actually see the bacteria that were causing deadly infections. We could see the viruses behind the plagues. And this knowledge wasn't some abstract idea. It led directly to things like antibiotics and vaccines that have saved literally billions of lives, all because we could finally see the battle happening inside our own bodies. Let me put it this way. Before, if you saw a needle poke someone's skin, it was just a poke. But with this new vision, we could see what was really happening, a complex, almost dramatic interaction on a cellular level. And that new depth of understanding, it applied to absolutely everything. So, after all that, what's the big lesson we can take away from this incredible journey? Well, there's a real, profound wisdom that comes from the simple act of deciding to look closer at the world around us. For me, it's really humbling. It makes you so grateful for those persistent, curious people who just refused to accept the world as it seemed, who were so driven that they pushed right past the limits of what was thought to be seeable. When you boil it all down, the core lesson is about this really powerful balance. This whole story teaches us that to make real progress, you need two things. You need the boldness to ask what if and chase after the unknown, but you also need the humility and the discipline to prove it with caution and rigor. One without the other is just a dream, or worse, a mistake. And it just goes to show you, right? Sometimes that slender thread of inquiry is all it takes. By looking really, really closely at the smallest things, things that seem totally insignificant, we can end up unraveling the absolute biggest mysteries of the universe. Which leaves me with one last thought for you. We managed to uncover one hidden universe, but what other ones are still out there? Right in front of us, just waiting for the right person to ask the right question or to build the right tool. What are we not seeing today that people 100 years from now will think is completely obvious? Thanks so much for joining me.